Greetings and salutations, everyone. If you're watching this, we are moments away from creating our first hardcore character for Season 3. And I just kind of wanted to... I talked about this a bunch on the stream, and I just want to record like a short little... my top 5 builds for the hardcore server. So you guys could, maybe take that under advisement. We have a bunch of either new players, like new/returning players that may or may not be checking out the hardcore server. We may or may not have some free-to-play players coming to the hardcore server for the first time, so you've never got a chance to check it out. And stuff like that. So I remember what it was like the first hardcore season for me. I did a lot of like character experimentization until I got to the last couple of weeks of the hardcore server, and then I decided like kick it into high gear and get my 5,000 favor and stuff like that. Season 2, I basically decided to like knock it out. I think I did them all within the first 3 weeks, the goals that I was accomplishing or wanted to accomplish, and then got back to the regular server. So these are my top 5 builds. Take them, leave them, do something else, whatever you like. Oh, those are my general notes. Why is that on? Turn this off. Boop. All right. Boop. There we go. These are my notes for posting YouTube videos. All right. So in 5th place, I'm just going to do the top 5. Take them or leave it, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about each one of these. So number 5 is the melee arty Renegade Master Maker on a Warforged or a Blade Forge, whichever you prefer. So something that's really unique and special about the hardcore server is even iconics start at level 1, which is not usually something that you think of as an advantage on the hardcore server or advantage on the live server, because otherwise you skip to level 15. But it is to me an advantage on the hardcore server because the majority of your time is going to be spent below level 20, depending on your primary strategy, and it's actually very, very good to do that, to have an iconic as an option. So either Warforged, if you're interested in having a Paladin level, you may or may not be. You may want to just be pure level 20 Artificer, which means you want to be a Warforged. But the Renegade Mastermaker tree is like very good. Yeah, it's melee, which is a little bit of a disadvantage on the hardcore server. But I believe with like Bastard Swords or Dwarven Axes or I think it might just be those two, you can still use like the two-handed fighting stuff and get some strike through action. It's got good self-heals. It's got the ability to like AoE heal other people in your party. You can turn them into a Warforged. You get like a repair aura that repairs each other. You can do a lot with it. You get a ton of PRR and MMR, if I remember correctly. And I love the power of the Rune Arm in general, combining with either melee or ranged, and this kind of puts them both together. So highly survivable, a ton of hit points, a ton of good defenses, a good offensive package. I don't know if I would focus heavily on being in Reaper mode with this build, but if you're just looking for favor, the melee Renegade Master Maker is very, very good. In 4th position, again talking about melee, the Bear Barb, probably with the ASMR as the race, but doesn't necessarily have to be. But yeah, you get the combination of like the temporary hit points from Barbarian, Barbarian speed, Barbarian hitting things, and a little bit of advantage in the tree, and you get to combine all the awesome power of the Druid on top of it. Super survivable, again, just like the melee Renegade Master Maker. You have heals, you have some spell options, you have pets, etc., etc. You can get a lot of advantages out of there. The top 3 builds are casters of some sort, and in 3rd position, what I actually used to get to my 5,000 favor on hardcore season 1 is the half-elf bard Rogue Splash. You may or may not want to do the Rogue Splash. I did the Rogue Splash primarily because I felt the overwhelming desire that somebody in my group needed to do traps, and my trappers kept dying. So I got that role, took that on. So the reason you want to do the half elf is so you can do the warlock dilettante enhancement. You need to be able to drag that to your bar and turn it on. But what that does is it does an extra points of fire damage, 1d4 on melee hits, or a d4 plus times your level on spells, including your SLAs, including things like shout, psionic blast, all that stuff. It also does damage to your positive or your non-damage dealing spells, so like hold monster, dancing ball, stuff like that. So you can use your defensive abilities and still kill enemies. You also have the advantage of having like low level or relatively low level freedom of movement that's non-dispellable because it's on a song. Temporary hit points, or hit points being fired off. It's really good. Like a heal over time. That's what I'm looking for. Mana reduction by 10% that stacks with other things. Spell point regeneration at level 12. So all of a sudden you become everybody's favorite friend at level 12 if you're in a group with other casters. Plus, like I said, maximizing power, shout. I screwed around a little bit on live last night, just kind of showing off my character from Hardcore Season 1. And I went out to the Vale. Not only did I sing my bard song and then basically just go AFK while a bunch of guys attacked me, and I never actually fell out of my temporary hit points, but I also regenerated all of my spell points that I had used to kind of like screw around a little bit. And shout was doing something like 800 points of damage in an AoE for 9 mana, plus of course the 100 or 200 points of fire damage to at least one target every 2 seconds. Like it still felt very, very strong and very, very good. So a solid third place pick. The fortitude saves are a little weak. I actually lost 2 of these guys to disintegrates in Demon Queen, so be careful with disintegrate casting monsters. In position 2, which might surprise a lot of people, the Wizard Rogue. Now I use the Wizard Rogue primarily on the Pale Master platform as like my go-to character. Character on Season 2 that accomplished all of my goals. I think was my second. No, it wasn't my second. Maybe my 4th character on the hardcore season, Season 2, and she was a Wizard Rogue. You can opt to do it as a iconic, the Deep Gnome. There's some really good advantages to that, but then you have to go all the way to 30 if you want a TR. I did end up TRing. I did a regular gnome, and it felt really good to me the whole time. So, in my second place, Wizard Rogue. If you watch my streams or my videos for any length of time, you'll know that I'll go into that into great detail all over the place. And the number 1 slot, the Favored Soul. Again, I think the ASMR is probably the strongest platform for it. Extra lay on hands for just a few racial action points are really good. You can get to like, I think at level 15 or 16, you can get regenerating lay on hands, and I think you can get like 7 of them. So that's a lot of free healing or semi-free healing for the cost of 5 racial action points. So highly recommend it. If you go light bright mode, i.e. Is it the Disciple of Dawn? No, that's the healer tree. The war caster tree. I forget the name of it. But you get that Sunbolt at level 3 for 10 action points in the tree, and that thing just hard carries you right on up to Blade Barrier, which just hard carries you right up to the end of the tree. You don't have to worry about it. It's super good, super strong. So those are my top 5. I would like to throw out some honorable mentions for like a human paladin, probably. Paladins are in a really sweet spot right now, especially with strike through. If you get to level 10 and you get yourself the Barovian Greatsword, you're pretty much as set as you need to be for your 5,000 favor. Yeah, I'm not saying you can't find a better Greatsword also, but it's a pretty strong one. Honorable mentions to the light-based monk. I really do feel, again, the idea of incoming healing is very strong. It's got good saves. It's very fast. Abundant Leap is amazing. So that's another good one. Pretty much anything on the Dragonborn frame would also be really good. So like a Dragonborn Sork or a Tiefling Sork would both be really good for Sorks in there. But pretty much anything on the Dragonborn frame. If you are interested in shaving points from your class tree and put them into the racial tree is very strong. And assuming you have a little bit of class stuff that kind of like goes together, you can get quite a bit of power out of it. So those are honorable mentions. But Renegade Mastermaker, Bear Barb, Half Elf, Bard using the Warlock Dilettante, your Gnome or Deep Gnome, Undead, Wizard Rogue, and your ASMR Favorite Soul. Those are my top 5 builds. So take it from me, somebody who's accomplished all the goals on the hardcore server except for pets, which is the 20 Reaper point goal, which is just something I've never been that interested in. I kind of like this Archon though, so I have to decide whether or not I'd like to work the Archon into my personal list. Alright, everybody, good luck on the Hardcore Server 3. I'll be streaming it live for pretty much every DDO stream as usual until I accomplish the goal. So look for my LFMs and we'll see you soon. Toodles.